This episode of the Beauty by ABIC podcast is brought to you by the Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council. Hello and welcome to the Beauty by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Here, we are strengthening and unifying the industry through representation, innovation, and education. This is a platform created and dedicated to the aesthetic and beauty industry, valuing unity and advancement. We serve to represent, support, and inspire you by connecting you with industry experts, expanding your knowledge through educational pieces, and bringing you the latest industry news. This is Beauty by ABIC. I'm your host, Stephanie Miller, and today's guest is Dr Amira Sanki from the Australasian Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons. Dr Amira Sanki is a fully trained and qualified Australian plastic and reconstructive surgeon. Amira graduated from the University of New South Wales in 2000 with honours in medicine and surgery. She then completed her internship at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, undertaking extensive training in general and plastic surgery in Sydney for 10 years. Upon receiving her fellowship in plastic surgery from the Royal Australasian College of Surgeons, Amira completed an aesthetic surgery fellowship and commenced practice at Southern Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. As the Chair of Education for the Australasian Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons, she is committed to improving the quality of education offered to specialist plastic surgeons and training plastic surgeons. She regularly teaches and lectures other doctors and speaks at community information nights for her local hospitals. Amira is passionate about ensuring public safety by encouraging patients to thoroughly research their surgical options and by promoting the important difference between specialist plastic surgeons and cosmetic practitioners. Here to discuss the importance of ongoing education from the Australasian Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons, today we welcome Dr Amira Sanki. Welcome to the podcast, Dr Amira. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Stephanie. This is just awesome. It's lovely to have a chat and to be a part of this podcast, not just to be listening to it.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being a guest. I know all of our listeners are going to be super excited with today's episode because we actually have a specialist plastic surgeon with us to talk to us about all the exciting new developments that are happening. And of course, Dr. Amira, you're the President and Chair of Education for ASAPS. So right now, we can have an extremely timely discussion because NSS, the non-surgical symposium, is coming up in about, a week and a half now? It's fast approaching.
Yes, very soon. Everyone is in their planning of outfits phases, I think.
Look, I'd love to start off. Please tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background and your experience in your industry.
So I am a specialist plastic surgeon in Sydney. I work out of Kogarah, and I've been 12 years in practice as a plastic surgeon. And interestingly, when I first came out, there weren't many plastic surgeons that were purely in aesthetic practice, but now I think we do have a lot of purely aesthetic plastic surgeons, and I'm one of them. I also have 2 nurse injectors in my room, so we do a lot of non-surgical skincare, injectables, peels. And we have an all-female surgical team, which just gives the rooms a really lovely, warm, buzzy, comforting vibe, like a womb, a hub for women. And I came into the ASAPS board. Why do we all do things? We do things because we're frustrated and we want to make change. So my frustration about 7 years ago was that Medicare took away the Medicare item number for abdominoplasty surgery. And, this just infuriated me because abdominoplasty is an operation that is for women, it's to help restore women's abdominal muscles after they've been destroyed by the most altruistic thing a woman can do, which is to give birth. And I found this was just infuriating. And so I joined ASAPS to take part in advocacy to help make change. But now what I most enjoy about being part of ASAPS is just educating others, is teaching and learning from everyone, and organising those events.
That is a powerful story, and one that I'm sure all of our listeners are resonating with. And I know that everyone that's a member of ABIC or involved with ABIC in any way will feel very deeply about what you're saying regarding change and regarding the motivation for being part of organisations such as ASAPS and ABIC. And that is to foster, encourage, support, and drive that change. How did you go with your quest when you joined ASAPS? Do you feel that that change is pushing forward for you?
Yeah, I do. I do. And one of the key things I've learnt is that we all want a change to happen immediately. We see an injustice, we see a problem, we see an obvious solution, and it becomes extremely frustrating when you can't just immediately put that solution into place. The most important lesson I've learned out of this process is that you can't do this by yourself. We're first and foremost doctors, nurses, medical practitioners, clinicians, and you have to incorporate the skill set of other people, lobbyists, marketers, public relations teams, to affect change. And this shouldn't get you down, because it just looks like the mountains are so high. How can I possibly climb them? Get the well-equipped people, get the knowledgeable people, and get them to help you. And if you really believe in something, you should really push it forward.
That is such sage advice because, of course, ABIC is still in its infancy. We are 2 years, probably in a day or so, is going to be our birthday.
Happy
So,
birthday,
yeah,
Avic.
2 year anniversary. It's flown, but we are still such a fledgling organization, and during that time we have created a lot of change. We were able to do that because we came about in a time of change, which was COVID. And so we were able to get in there with government and really kind of change the trajectory of the way things were going for the beauty slash dermal part of our industry, which was very satisfying. But after that, you're right, it's an exercise in patience, perseverance, and
Exactly.
time. And this is the thing, people can't when they get together, they need to realize that we have a responsibility to our industry, suppliers, educators, practitioners alike, to come together and put that time over years to ensure that our industry is going in the right direction. It doesn't happen overnight. So it's very wise words from you.
Don't you just think the other tricky thing is keeping everyone happy, right, Steph? Because we represent several hundred plastic surgeons, and sort of by proxy of the NSS meeting, we represent a lot of injectable clinicians, and dermal clinicians and nurses, and cosmetic physicians. And it's hard to keep everyone happy. But I think so long as we've always got patient safety in mind and consumer safety in mind, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Wow, you took the words right out of my mouth. It is very difficult to keep everyone happy, and is a balancing act because within the organizations there are suppliers to, clinics.
Yes.
There are clinics.
Yeah.
There are, as you said, all different types of people involved, and then of course the council themselves and the people that are actually behind ABIC, and everyone gets together and shares their amazing ideas, and everybody wants to affect change in their way, and it ends up being we all need to go, okay, it's not our way, it's the way that's best for the industry, and we all need to have patience and understanding that if things take time and things take compromise. So I think that it's so wonderful that you came on and actually are speaking about this. Our listeners get an understanding of, it's that perseverance, it's that putting yourself and yourself, I think, interests aside for the greater good of what we're doing. So thank you again so much for mentioning that. And I think you're in a very unique position as really the chair of education, but you're also in a role that's responsible as well, a responsible both parties, the president or the vice president and the head of education is a juggling
Yeah.
act, I would assume. How do you navigate those, and tell us about those two roles?
So, as vice president, I'm sort of the president's wingman. I
Yes.
step in. I step in whenever he's already attending a meeting. But I think I'm also that, in The Godfather, the consigliere, the person who offers advice. The sage person who says, "Hey, I'm not too sure if that's a good idea," or "Yeah, let's do that. That's awesome." So I'm a yin to his yang, to Tim's yang. But I think as chair of education, that's really the role that I really relish and love, because I love teaching, and teaching at conferences and organising conferences is just doing that at a much more impressive and grand scale.
Mm.
And I love looking at new opportunities of how to educate as well. So, the mission that we've had within our small world of plastic surgery is how to get our younger members and our training plastic surgeons into aesthetic education a little bit more to foster their and nurture their learning.
It's an important responsibility, especially in the industry that you're in, with new emerging talent coming into the industry all the time, with
Yeah.
these guidelines that perhaps until recently haven't been as clear as our consumers would have liked them to be. There's the landscape there that's quite interesting at the moment, right? Tell us a little bit about how do you navigate education in a changing environment such as what's happening in the opera world.
So I guess for the first thing that we've had to do was to justify our aesthetic education of our trainees and all that we go through. And our training is a really long process. It took me 15 years from medical school to the end of getting my plastic surgery fellowship. So to have someone suggest that I'm not appropriately trained when I finish my plastic surgery fellowship is just ridiculous. So we've been doing a lot of justification of our training and helping the public and APRA understand how exactly we get trained in aesthetic surgery. And I think we should also foster a great sense of pride in that training. And that's something that we've been trying to imbue in our younger surgeons and in our plastic surgery registrars, that they really have done the hard yards. And their training is so comprehensive. It's not just about knowing how to do a facelift, it's about how to assess the patient. It's about how to do that surgery safely and where to do it, and the team you utilize, and then how to look after that patient properly afterwards. And it's also that education and understanding the surgical and non surgical aspects, the full picture, and of course, how to manage complications.
The Aesthetic and Beauty Industry Council is Australia's peak industry body, representing the collective professional beauty and aesthetic, salon, clinic and spa community. Created for the industry, by the industry, our council is a collaboration of industry leaders who bring their commitment and specialised skills to raise industry standards, guide regulation and be a strong voice to government. At ABIC, our purpose is to provide an accessible and supportive organisation for the betterment of the professional beauty and aesthetic field, to enhance working practices and promote unity across the various sectors of the industry. ABIC's mission also includes being a trusted source of referral, education and guidance for clients of the beauty and aesthetic profession. ABIC is here to support our members through an extensive offering, including hundreds of valuable resources, HR support and industry expert facilitators to ensure your continued growth and success. Join us today and together let's safeguard the future of the beauty and aesthetic industry. Find us at www.theabic.org.au. At ABIC, we are here for you.
So, with such thorough education, what we should be is standing up, holding our head high. We've worked hard to achieve that title of specialist plastic surgeon, and we should stand up for it.
Very well said. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people listening right now who have put in those hard yards, as you said, over time. And, now I suppose the challenging part, the part that, you can analytically understand why you need to put those guidelines in place and you need to answer those questions, but the emotional part of having to do so after you've trained for so long, and also compete with a sector that perhaps feels that they didn't need to train for as long as
Yeah.
that, and still, obtain certain titles and things like that. I think
Yeah,
the whole
exactly. It's not what you know, it's what you know you don't know. And if you don't know it all, then you don't know what you don't know.
and I think that people are reading between the lines of what we're saying extremely well right now. People that are in the know that do know.
Yeah,
But
exactly,
but those
exactly.
people that don't, and the people that do, the NSS, the non-surgical symposium, right now is going to be the best place to get that knowledge, to understand the changing landscape, the changing guidelines. And it is an integral part of that education that you're talking about, because after you finished your 15 years, after you finished all your training, the learning and the education shouldn't stop there. It's a very evolving, innovating industry. There are changes that are happening all the time and they're so exciting, but it is very difficult to keep up with them without having a body of people coming together and experts coming together to share that knowledge. And that's what I've always, and people have always admired about the non-surgical symposium. It's such a conglomerate of people, not just nationally, but internationally, you bring in to educate practitioners and medical professionals about what you do safely, effectively, but also all the new cool technologies that are coming out and
So
the new
true, so
techniques.
true.
Oh,
And I think everyone comes to NSS in their mind thinking, I've heard about this on the horizon. I'm really going to look into that. I'm going to go to the trade and find out more about that machine, or I'm going to go to that lecture and specifically listen out for that. There's always something new, some new product, some new machine, some new regulation. And the NSS just brings it all together so that you can finally catch up. And I suppose, look, the highlight of the conference for me this year is that very last session, because I think the most important thing that everyone hasn't had a chance to catch up on is those changes in the cosmetic surgery regulations and also in cosmetic advertising. So that last session with Lily Vritic and Anne Tonkin, the head of APRA, will be really critical to people just having that moment, that time to finally just sit down and listen to what's happening.
it is a pulling feature of NSS, absolutely. And we had a talk to Dr. Tim, the president, the other day about this very topic. This is an extremely timely and very good reason to attend NSS, but also I've seen the program. Wow, there's
Yeah.
some really good stuff.
Naveen's done a great job. So I think that the key thing about what makes this NSS so cool is the very broad themes that it's covering. It's so diverse. And I think it reflects the really diverse scientific committee that Naveen Samaya has pulled together. We've got him as a plastic surgeon, then we've got a dermal clinician, a nurse practitioner, 2 dermatologists, a dentist, a cosmetic physician, and a business strategist. So, there's something for everyone, right? And it's just reflects that our practices are diverse. You may be a nurse injector, but you've also got to talk about skincare, and you've also got to work out how many you want to employ in your team and what's your marketing strategy. And the great thing about NSS is it pulls it all together, that you can duck into that room on business strategy, or you can duck into the room and do your workshop on injecting tear troughs. You're able to pick and choose in the program what you most need to fill in the blanks in your education at the moment.
That's wonderful. What do you think are the main themes this year, if you had to summarize what this year's conference is about?
So, look, I think it's always about facial aesthetics. It's always about facial aesthetic treatments. And then, we go through the layers of the face. There's the skin care, and then there's the deeper layers of how you're actually going to volumize patients and help with their wrinkles. And then I love that we've used Susie this year for the business strategy sessions. and how to run the practice. And then, as I said, we're ending with risk mitigation. So we've sort of got 4 levels of knowledge there happening: face treatments, skincare, customer service, running your practice, and risk mitigation.
Oh my goodness, so much under one roof. A lot of people are thinking these days, and they've been trained, I would say, to obtain this education online, maybe on their own, do some self-learning. Why do you think it's so important to get everyone, all these collective minds under one roof in person and have a big education conference like this? What's the difference?
For me, the difference is the buzz. I remember walking into NSS last year, and it was, straight after COVID. And my God, we were all like someone who'd never drunk water before, finally being retrieved out of the desert, and just seeing everyone and seeing that huge trade and connecting with everyone and seeing that massive screen in the main ballroom and the first lecture being given. And, the hairs stand up on your arms. There's just such an atmosphere to it, and you're a part of it. And I think it's that, yeah, you're one of the 1,000 attendees, but everyone around you loves learning as much as you do. And I think that's why it's got this incredible atmosphere.
It's very powerful, isn't it? And they say that
It is. There's a power to learning, Steph, isn't there? There's just something so validating about it. You feel good. It's almost spiritual, right? It's like the church of our learning.
Oh, absolutely. And the deep connection that you can gain with others through education and through learning, because you're all sitting there absorbing the same information in the same mindset.
Yes.
It's a deeper connection than just meeting somebody for the first time under a different circumstance. I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
foster better, deeper friendships and an instant connection with people. It's so easy to network in education seminars,
I
isn't it?
agree. I agree. And it's not just about being mentored, is it? It's about being the mentor.
Mm.
When you first go to NSS, I think you're really there craving, oh, will someone please take me in under their wind and just show me how to navigate this all? But then after a few years, you become that mentor. You're the person who's being asked to take the stage and teach others. It's this, just that evolution and natural progression of your knowledge and your experience. And look, I also love that conferencing. I mean, I know we all have to do it. We all have to collect our CPD points, but there is something just really lovely about that emotional and brain reset that we get when we attend a conference, that we're taking time out of our clinical practice to learn. And there's just something so beautiful, fun, and pure about learning. And you're right, that connection is just lovely, meeting old friends and making new friends.
I love how you said the mindset reset. I think that's a very profound and important aspect of going to conferences, because you're removing yourself from your everyday life and your
Yes, the
everyday
monotony.
routine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and something happens to your brain, it almost rewires itself and goes, "Oh, I remember why." Full of
I remember
inspiration.
why I love it. Yeah, exactly. And we've got this really cool international faculty, aside from the fact that the accents are always really gorgeous. It's also just nice hearing the way people do things overseas, whether it's even just the way they do their sales and their marketing, the way they look after their patients can often be very different. But of course, learning their different techniques and how they do things. I love the internationals at our meeting.
It is. It's always an eye opener, isn't it? At listening to a different point of view across the side of the world, and you think, oh goodness, that is such a novel way of approaching a particular problem, or a particular, even as you said, marketing and communications is quite different. I think that also when you're in that situation, in that environment, when you have so many diverse people under one roof, you're getting a collective of knowledge, rather than when you're on your own, you're trying to source one or two pieces of information, but you're getting so many different points of view, I think, at the one time, that it gives you this emotional feeling. And of course, we know that learning linked with emotion, actually, you retain more knowledge, you retain more information over a longer period of time. So I think all the things that you've mentioned are the reasons why everybody listening now should really consider hurrying up. If you don't have the tickets, they're selling out fast. It's www.nonsurgical, is it .org.au, to get your tickets?
Correct. nonsurgical.org.au.
Perfect. And if you can't find that, or you find a bit of difficulty navigating that, you can always go to the AVIC website, It's in our events calendar, front and center. You can click on the link. It will take you right there. Thank you so much for coming and
Thank you,
speaking with
Steph.
us.
It's been such a pleasure.
It really has. Please come back again. I want to find out all about what you do and the intricacies of it, because I know a lot of our listeners, of course, are women and men who are very much interested in rejuvenation. And I really want to talk to you more about women and women postpartum. I think that's a huge topic that our
Yes.
industry would really, really love to find out about. So thank you so much. Enjoy the
Thanks,
conference.
Steph. Thank you. See you soon.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Beauty by ABIC podcast, your online support community for the aesthetic and beauty industry. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay connected.